Hey guys, it's Jasmine. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what this video is about because I did not expect this to be an hour. There is just a lot to say. I don't expect you to sit through this whole freaking video, so here's the quick rundown. As it says in the title, I have bipolar. It's something that's made itself clear in the last 7 months, and other things that have been happening is like developing anorexia, um, okay, you know what? I'm not going to make this intro too long. If you can sit through the roller coaster that is this video, then you'll understand why I haven't been uploading to YouTube and why it's not a priority to me at this time. I really want to be, but realistically, I need to work on myself before I can do that. Anyway, bye-bye. Hey guys, it's Jasmine. This is a video that is way overdue. In my last video, I mentioned going into the hospital for an amount of time, which was like 4 days, 4 or 5 days, yeah. I didn't say what it was for because I didn't really know myself. I was pretty sure of what it was, but there was no proper diagnosis or no conclusion, and it generally takes a long time to get a diagnosis for this. But basically what happened was 2 months prior to the last video that I uploaded, Where Have You Been? I began an antidepressant called Lexapro, and I'd been on that for a month, and I think I was on like 10 milligrams, and then after that month my doctor put me up to 20 milligrams, and I wasn't really noticing a whole lot of difference with how I was feeling. I mean, I felt kind of strange, but there wasn't a lot that I noticed. Anyway, 2 months goes by and I was starting to get a little funny. First of all, let me give you just a little rundown on what bipolar is. I'll also pop a link down in the description if you want to read it for yourself. Okay, basically, bipolar disorder, also known as manic depression or previously known as, is a mental illness that brings severe high and low moods, changes in sleep, energy, thinking, and behavior. Alright. So basically there is depression, there's hypomania, and then there's mania. I was slowly going into hypomania. Let's just get the description of that. Basically, just excessive happiness, hopefulness, excitement, bubbling over with motivation, desire, and confidence, often grandiose. There's sudden changes from being joyful to being irritable, angry, hostile, restlessness, rapid speech, poor concentration, increased energy, less need for sleep, unusually high sex drive, making grand and unrealistic plans, showing poor judgment, drug and alcohol abuse, and becoming more impulsive. Oh no, I just described what mania was. Alright, so basically hypomania is a lower form of mania. It's pretty much the same sort of thing, except you haven't really lost touch with reality and it doesn't really affect your day-to-day life all that much. You basically just seem like you're in an unusually happy mood. So I went into hypomania and I was going to see a new psychologist for the first time in the city, and when I was going there, I was, well, like I was just explaining, I was unusually happy. I was buzzing around. I was talking to people, which I never do. Like, I'm a super awkward person, and I just I don't talk to people that I don't know or anything. I'm just very reclusive. So this was really unusual for me. I was just going through shops while I was deciding whether or not to go to this thing that I generally go to every fortnight. Oh my gosh, most people watching this are probably American. So every 2 weeks, and it's kind of just like a thing for LGBT people to, you know, hang out and play games or just there's different topics for every time you go there. I haven't been there in a long time at this point, but I was wondering whether or not to go there, so I was kind of just wasting time in the city. And I asked some girl to go to like this place to get dinner with me. I came home like later that day, and I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and she was like, "You asked someone to dinner?" And I was like, "Well, not exactly. I mean, like I didn't even realize that it was kind of flirtatious." And oh gosh, a little bit embarrassing. I had no sort of intentions of that whatsoever. I was just like in such a happy mood. I was just being nice and outgoing, and then like later when I thought about it, I was like, holy crap, that could have been taken as flirting. And I was like, so you know, I was just like a little bit off. I was off. Later that night, I didn't end up going to the place, by the way, and I was actually part of the committee there, and I quit that. Impulsivity. I was very impulsive. I didn't know whether I wanted to be there or not, and I just quit it. Luckily, you know, they're very understanding there, so they, you know, said you can still be a part of it and just, you know, we understand you have like limitations and stuff, which is lovely, but I have not been there. I've probably been like 3 times since then. And, so, okay. Let's just skip to later that night. That night, when I got home, I was starting to switch from the hypermania to mania. And I couldn't sleep whatsoever. I was just laying there, and my girlfriend had a uni exam the next day. So, you know, I wanted to let her sleep, and I told her, and she realized that I was feeling off. And, you know, I started getting a little bit freaking crazy. I think it was a lot to do with dehydration at that point as well, because I hadn't eaten, I hadn't drank anything. Okay, at this point, I hadn't eaten anything for 3 days, and I had like, okay, let's say like 15 hours sleep in 5 days. So I was having very little sleep, and I was just bounds of energy. So that night I'm trying to get to sleep because I want, you know, to get a nice sleep and for her to go and do her uni exam and all of that. All nice. And I was just laying there, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning or something. And she's just saying to me, you know, just stay in bed, try to get some sleep, stay in bed. And meanwhile, I'm just laying there, and I've just got all these chemicals bouncing around in my brain, and I'm just so much energy, and I was just laying there like, oh, like I'm shaking with energy. And I just had to get up, and it was like 5 in the morning at this point. Wait, cut back. It was like 3 in the morning, got out of bed, and I went out the back and I took my girlfriend's laptop out there. So I was just out there on Facebook and YouTube and just laughing, talking to myself. It was a bit insane. I'm sitting there and I'm laughing. I'm like, if the neighbors can hear me, this is not how I usually am, okay? Don't think I'm insane or something, because Jesus, this is out of my control. So it was a pretty cold night. So I was out there pretty much just watching the sun rise, and all this energy inside of me and like racing thoughts, and I was like everywhere. And I sort of realized just by touching myself, I was like, holy crap, my hands are like starting to go a bit blue here. Like, I'm really cold. But I didn't realize it because all your sort of senses, well, some senses are heightened, some are dulled. Like, you don't really feel pain all that much because you've got such an overload of dopamine and endorphins in you that, like, you just don't feel a lot of pain. So, at around, say, 5:36 a.m., I was just feeling myself and I was like, wow, I am really, really cold. I did not realize that. I'm going to have to go inside. So I went into the spare room and just continued with what I was doing. And I was trying to wait for a appropriate time to call my mum, because she has bipolar. I didn't really freak out all that much about this happening to me, because I was like, honestly, I've grown up with it all my life. I've seen what my mum's like. She's been out of hospital, in and out of hospital all throughout my life, 3 months in, 3 months out, etc. So I knew what was happening to me. I was familiar with it. It wasn't like, holy crap, what's happening to me? Freak out. It was like, okay, this is happening. I need to contact mum and see what I need to do to get on top of this. Because, like, what the fuck is going on? Oops. So, at this point, it's like 8 in the morning. I've been in there just typing away and making voice things on my phone and just, oh my goodness. I was in my dressing gown and UGG boots, and I just had so much energy, and I wanted to just walk to my mum's house while in this bright pink dressing gown and UGG boots, like looking ridiculous. And I just had such an overwhelming urge to just go outside and walk to mum's, and just, I didn't, thankfully, but I never realized how impulsive you can get, because I've seen mum, with the crazy decisions she'd make, and I thought, it can't be that difficult to control. Like, surely it's not that bad. And then when it actually happened, when I was having all those impulsive thoughts and that, it was so strong. After the sun rose a bit, I just had so much energy. I let the dog outside and I ran to the back of the yard with her. I'm just like sprinting around, laughing, and I'm just, so much energy. And I was a little bit cracked at this point. Now, I got a hold of my mum at around 11 in the morning, and I was sort of just crying on the phone to her and just, saying, I've got what you have. bipolar. Like, I've been up all night, I've been talking to myself, laughing, crying, freaking all over the place. And I need to know what to do, and I need to come to your house. So I got my like housemate, when they come home from uni, I got them to drive me to mum's. We planned to go there and then go to the hospital, because, you know, it was pretty obvious what was going on with me. So went to the hospital, and they weren't much of a help, really. All they done was prescribed me a bunch of Valium to help me sleep. And this is after, okay, again, I'm getting ahead of myself. I've been trying to get into the hospital for 3 days, and they weren't helping me. They were just saying, you know, wait it out. And because I had been having the antidepressants, that is a reaction that some people can have from them. It makes them go manic. Generally, if you have like predisposition to bipolar, it can bring on bipolar or exacerbate the symptoms. So, you know, throughout my life, I've always had depression. I've always been depressed. I remember being suicidal at age 7, seeing psychs and stuff from around 11 onwards. And, you know, all of this like creativity, the motivation, confidence, all of this like bursting through me was I really liked it, because it's something that I hadn't experienced before. I've never really had motivation like a general sort of regular person does. Oh, excuse me. So, you know, it was kind of great at first. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I feel like I can actually do things. And, you know, obviously it's way too overboard. Okay, hold on. To give you an idea of how, like, all over the place I was by, say, well, the whole 3 days that I was trying to get into the hospital, I grabbed this scrapbook off of the table at, it was my stepdad's, and it's like a brand new scrapbook, and I just wanted something to write in. And, okay, I'm just going to show a bit of this writing. Look at this. I was just writing, and all night I was just up writing all of this crazy stuff, and it was just all the thoughts that were going through my head, the rapid thinking, I was just writing everything down. And, you know, you can see the writing goes like bigger, smaller, it's like all messy, crazy. And when I was going to the hospital sort of the second time after I'd done this, I had been staying at mum's house because, you know, she knows how to deal with me. She's had experience firsthand, and so she'd have more of an idea of how to deal with me in the state that I was in. So I thought it was best to stay there. Oh, God. So, yeah, the second time going to the hospital, I was handing this book to my girlfriend and parents, and I don't really remember this all too well, but my girlfriend says that I was like, read this book, it'll explain everything. And I was like really adamant that it's gonna make everything clear. And I was like, oh my. So, you know, actually reading this once I've come down and seeing how ridiculous it is, it's like, wow. I was like, everything will be explained on the page with the big T. And you go to that page with the big T and it's just a big T. Like, where is that? I don't know. But it was ridiculous. So the Valium wasn't really helping me all that much. Yeah, it helped me sleep a little bit. But I was still having very minimal amounts of sleep. I was still up till probably, oh God, all hours, like 6 in the morning, just writing things down crazily. And another thing that I began doing was smoking weed. Don't really like to admit it, but I got pretty, like, addicted. Because at this point, it was bringing me down. Like, after I'd had a bit, I could think a little more clearly, like my thoughts would slow down a bit. And I just kind of kept doing it. And it was a stupid decision, but I did. And can't change that now. I've recently gotten off of it. And alright, little side story. You know, getting off of it. No, I can't go into that right now because it's another big bit. I finally got into the hospital and I was like, these aren't working. Okay, the antidepressants that I was having, as soon as they said, well, actually, I'd researched it first because, you know, I was just click, 100 tabs open. So I was researching and I found something that said that the antidepressants can bring it on and can exacerbate it. So as soon as I read that, I was like, okay, no more of these. That's it. Which is a bit of a silly decision because if you don't taper it, there can be bad side effects. But you know, in that state of mind, I was just impulsive and I was like, oh, that's happening, screw them. And so I didn't have any more after that. So the third day, I was still trying to get into the hospital. I was like, I haven't had the antidepressants for like 4 days at this point, and this is persisting and getting worse. Like, it's not getting any better, and I need some help. Like, I was at the point where it had been the third day that I'd gone to the hospital and tried to get into something, and I was, you know, at my mum's house the day after, and you know, it was just getting to a point that was absolutely ridiculous. I was losing touch with reality. I was so irritable and impulsive. It was insane. And something just had to be done. And so, you know, I was at the point where I was, my mum was on the phone to the ambulance. And I was on the floor, like, kicking and screaming, just like, I need help. I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't do anything. And like, I was just so over not being able to get any help. And so at that point, like, that was after I was on the phone. And I was like, these are the symptoms I have. This is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And like rapid speech. I was just blah, 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 blah. And, you know, the lady's just like, okay, as soon as I mentioned that I was having dope, like marijuana, she was like, oh, well, that's why you like this. And I just flipped. I was like, no, I'm having that because of this. It has not caused it. I am only having it because it is calming me down slightly. And she just would not listen on the phone. And so that's when I got to that point. I was just like, Mum, take the phone. And I was just screaming at the top of my lungs, like, I can't do this. This is bullshit. I need help. And so, you know, at that point, Mum was really concerned, and she's just like, yeah, you just need to do something. And they were like, okay, look, we're sending an ambulance. And whatever, just freaking get me help. I need it right now. And so the ambulance comes, and off I go to the hospital. And finally, they contacted some mental health place, and they come out to assess me, you know, taking into consideration that I hadn't had the antidepressants 4 days. This was getting worse, and I needed to do something. So with that in mind, they admitted me to a psych ward. So, you know, as soon as I went in there, they gave me antipsychotic medication, which is, funnily enough, the same medication that my mum has to control her bipolar. And it worked really well with me. Because, you know, they figured if it works well with my mum, then chances are it will work well with me. And it did. So, you know, it took a few days for it to sort of bring me down. I was still all over the place for the most part. But I was just happy that I was getting help. Because I was like, it's been freaking ages that I've been trying to get this help. So I was just relieved that I was in there and getting help. You know, it's a bit difficult in there, especially sort of being a trans woman. Like the first day that I was in there, they switched from, you know, the day staff to the night staff. And this friggin' dude just walks up to me and is like, what are you in here for? Like gender problems or something? I'm like, what? Gender problems or something? Are you serious? That's not an issue here. Like, I've been like this for like 4 years at this point. Like, that's not the issue. Oh, God. Where do I even go from here? So, okay. Going past all that, I came down. The medication brought me down. They wanted to keep me in there for like at least a week, most likely more, but on the 4th day, I felt well enough that I could look after myself. As long as I had this medication that had brought me down, helped me be able to sleep, I was going to be okay. So I didn't want to be in that environment anymore. I didn't want to be in the psych ward. And, you know, I sort of realized that I was still a bit out of it at that point, but I'd rapidly gotten better. And I knew that I was able to look after myself at that point and just go home, have the medication, and I'll be fine. And I was. So it was sort of like a big thing trying to get out of there. Oh my God, it's such a hot day today. Oh. Alright. So the whole day I was just like, I need to get out of here. You know, I'm no longer needing to be here. And, you know, they wanted to keep me there. My family wanted to keep me in there. And I was just like, okay, you know what? At this point, I've come here willingly. I haven't been detained, like they haven't forcibly taken me there. And, you know, it's sort of my decision if I want to go, whether I think I'm ready or not. If I did leave and I was still sort of, you know, bad and I was still not getting better, then I would have been detained. But no, scratch that. I wouldn't have, because I'd go in there voluntarily. But, you know, they didn't have cause to detain me. I was willing to go there and I was willing to get help. So it wasn't a problem. So yeah, I was just at that point where I was like, okay, you know what? At this point, I'm 17. I can have my own medical decisions, and I want to leave here today. I'm going to discharge myself. So I did that, and I come home, and, you know, I was coming down, all was well. So, you know, I was having like regular psych appointments, seeing them probably 2 times a week at that point, just sort of tweaking medication and seeing how I'm going, and everything was okay. It all went fine. So after that, where do I go after that? You know, it was sort of a relief for my girlfriend to see me look through this book and be like, wow, that is crazy. And, you know, not say, oh, it makes complete sense, this will explain everything. So, you know, that was a relief for her. She was like, okay, it's evident that she's coming down now and she's getting better. So all was okay in that respect. So the last video that I posted, back to that had pretty much been like, not long after I'd gotten out of the hospital. It was probably like 4 days. And at that point I was probably, you know, I've come down from the mania and I was more sort of kind of normal and sort of switching between normal and hypermanic. That's kind of where I was at. So during that video, you know, I was saying how I'm going to be recording all these videos. I won't be uploading them because I want to get on top of the mental health. And I really underestimated how much time it was going to take to recover from it. And I'm still recovering. You know, it was kind of foolish to think that I was going to be all good and get back to doing everything that I wanted to do, because I was still having those floods of creativity, desire, motivation, all of that. And I was like, okay, while I've got this, I can plan things and try and sort out my life and make these life plans that are going to be like good changes, and try and get on top of my life. And, you know, I felt totally capable of doing that at that point. I felt completely capable. I can do this. Like, this is great. While I've got all of this, I'll take advantage of it and make these plans and do it. And then post-manic depression hits. Bam. Lack of motivation, lack of desire, fucking lack of emotion, everything. And, you know, I was just more sad all of the time, and I just got all of those symptoms that are typically with depression. So I couldn't really follow through with anything. I mean, I didn't give myself high expectations. I said in the video I want to just live day by day and just get on top of it. And I thought I was going to be able to do that fairly quickly, and I was wrong. So wrong. I'm only now am I sort of feeling more leveled out. I'm, along with it came, okay, a lot of people commented this actually when I said that I'd been in the hospital. They thought it was from anorexia because I'm so skinny. But I mean, I've always been quite skinny. I remember being in like year 10 of high school, and I'd have teachers like coming up to me and be like touch my arm like, Jasmine, are you eating? And like literally really concerned, thinking that I'm not eating because of how thin I was. And it's like, meanwhile, I've got like a plate this big, just like I had a massive appetite, especially when I was having estrogen injections. You know, it would get to like the 3rd day after the injection, and I'd just be like, hunger, eat everything. And so, you know, I just have like a really fast metabolism. So I can just eat like a horse and not put on weight. It's ridiculous. But anyway, recently in the last couple of months, I was reducing my medication because I wasn't getting a diagnosis. They said because I was having the antidepressants and the weed, there were too many factors to give me an accurate diagnosis. Oh, pardon me. So I was like, I don't really like how the medication is making me feel. I don't like feeling so zombified. It's just like, making me really lethargic. And, you know, with the medication, when I started having it, it makes you crave carbs and stuff. So I was, you know, still eating plenty. I mean, obviously after that time when you go manic, it's kind of like your brain is going so fast and you've got so much energy, like you don't have time to eat. I didn't have any time to eat. So it had been like, that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to go into the psych ward, was because they can provide food. Oh my God, by the way, if you don't know, I'm vegan, and I was expecting like horrible hospital food, like maybe be able to just eat some freaking fruit or something. But, you know, at least I knew that they were going to sort of encourage, if not force me to eat, because it's part of the recovery. I need to start eating, because at that point I hadn't eaten for like 3 days. I'd lost, alright, in the 5 days where I had had barely any sleep, hadn't eaten anything, I'd lost 7 kilos. I dropped from 55 kilos down to 48. And that is where I have stayed. When I quit the weed, I had a massive loss of appetite because I was having it as well to be able to eat. I felt like I wasn't able to eat until I'd had some. And you know, I didn't want to rely on that at all, and I've completely cut it out now. It's gone, and I don't plan to touch it again. So I've had trouble with insomnia and appetite, and I've not been able to put on any more weight. I've stayed at 48, 49 kilos. I went up to 50 for about 3 days there, and then I dropped back down to 48. And obviously that's could be in part because I'm vegan, and you know, when you have a totally plant-based diet, you have to eat a bit more than you would if you were having dairy and meat and stuff, because they're high in calorie and they're sort of condensed. You can get your fat intake, and I'm just like, I'm still really struggling with it. So, you know, I'm taking all these precautions to get my fat intake up. I'm gonna start having a protein powder. I've got all these like seeds and nuts and everything so that I can get my nutrition up. And I'm having, you know, the fattier things that I can have, like coconut all the time, and carbs, 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 like just trying to fatten myself up. I feel like I definitely have gotten a bit better, because I was at the point where you could see like 4 ribs in between my freaking boobs, and all of my ribs were so pronounced. My freaking ribs were here and my stomach was down here. Like, I was really, really thin. And I was, I feel like I was starting to develop anorexia. I was developing anorexia. I was still having those periods of time where I wasn't eating for 3 days. And I was reducing the medication, again, because I didn't have a clear diagnosis, and I wanted to have that diagnosis, or I wanted it to be clear to me what was going on, because I wasn't sure. I was like, why am I having all this heavy doses of antipsychotic medication when it could have just been a reaction to the antidepressants? And I didn't know whether it was just a reaction or whether I had actually triggered bipolar, which was quite likely because it runs very heavily in the family. But, you know, I wanted that clarity, because at that point I was just so depressed all the time, and I didn't know what to do. I'm on all this heavy medication that's just zombifying me. And if I didn't need the medication, I didn't want to have it. I mean, obviously, I don't want to have medications. I hate having to have medications. But, you know, I'm sort of coming to terms with it now that it probably is something that I need to have, because after lowering it, I went from like 350 milligrams down to 100 milligrams, not one jump. I was reducing it in like 25 milligram increments. But, you know, I was feeling fine for the most part. But then I was getting a bit stressed and I wasn't eating, and I felt like it was coming back up. Bipolar is a stress-induced mental illness. So stress can really bring it on. I don't really remember what the factors were, like why I was stressed, but I know there was a lot of things happening, and then to top it all off, my access to money, because I'm on a Centrelink youth disability payment. So that was threatened to be no more. I had to, like, I'm just feeling all depressed and down all the time, and I could barely have enough motivation to drag myself into the shower and to eat. Like, I was just, and it was making me feel sick to eat. And that's like I said, I was developing anorexia. I felt like my body was so skinny and bony that it was ridiculous to think that gaining weight would be a bad thing. But in my mind, it was. Like, I mean, it was and it wasn't. I knew that I needed to gain weight, but at the same time, I was feeling gross looking at my body, thinking of gaining weight, and it was giving me a lot of anxiety. And so there was a lot of these things just building up, and these disorders emerging. And then on top of it, they say that they're removing my payment and I have to start going to a job seeker place and looking for work. And I'm like, holy crap, this cannot happen right now. Like, obviously that's something that I want to aim for, but this is not the time. I'm just so stressed and have such little motivation, and that just was the cherry on top. So I was having trouble sleeping again. I was still having 100 milligrams of the antipsychotic medication. And, you know, I was just at that point again where I hadn't eaten for 3 days, and I went from relatively normal to, or depressed to, hypomanic again. While I was having the medication, obviously because I'd reduced it, it had emerged again. And, you know, once that happened, I thought, okay, I sort of have more clarity now. I sort of know what's going on with my body. If I've not had these antidepressants for months and I lower this antipsychotic medication, and then it makes me, and you know, that paired with stress makes me manic or like hypomanic, then I can be relatively sure that what I'm dealing with is bipolar. So, you know, at that point, I didn't want to be on the medication. I wanted to wean off it and see how I go. And if it turns out that it's something that I did need, then I'd have to deal with that, which I am. But if it turned out to be something I didn't need, great. I don't have to be zombified, and I can just see psychs and have that sort of therapy to get better. But, you know, that sort of confirmed it in my mind when it happened again while I was having the antipsychotic medication. Hadn't eaten for freaking 3 days, hadn't slept for 3 days, and I was so thin. I was like, that's the week that I lost the 7 kilos, and you know, that came about, and I was like, can't deal with this, and just went hypomanic. And I was like, oh, putting on like makeup like crazily, and like walking to the shops nearby my house, because I'm not actually sure why. I was going to, I needed to go food shopping. I needed to get some food that I was going to be able to keep down, because I was not being able to eat properly, and if I did have food, I just felt sick. I didn't know if it was psychological or if it was actually happening with my body. But either way, I needed to try and keep something down. So I went to the shop and I just got some, you know, things that are easy to keep down, like applesauce, banana, crackers. And even that was really difficult to eat. And I basically jogged to the freaking shop. Like I said, I was hypomanic. I was running over to the shop and I'm laughing, crying, talking to myself. Like I was at that point again where my emotions were everywhere. The chemicals in my brain were just bouncing everywhere. And if I'd left it any longer, I was going to go manic again. So I went into Centrelink while I was like that, just to show them that this is not something that can happen at this time. I need some time to get on top of things. Right. So I went there and I was just, you know, crying, and I was shaking, hyperventilating. I was just really, really stressed out about this because I need to be able to pay rent and to be able to buy food and stuff. Like, without that money, I was screwed. So with all the stresses building up, that was just the cherry on top that tipped me over the edge. So going there like that, they, you know, were able to see how I was, and they were able to help me and restore the payments, and, you know, not have it be a necessity that I start looking for work and stuff right now. Because obviously I couldn't do that at that point. There's no way. My God. Like, that's what was stressing me the frick out. I was just like, am I going to end up homeless with no food, no money, and just have all of this happening at this time? Like, oh. So when they could sort it out and they gave me time, they put me on something that they said I could potentially be on for 2 years. And I was like, okay, that's that big stress gone. Thank God. And, you know, as soon as she said that, I was just like, big sigh of relief. And then I was just like crying, like, thank you. Like, oh, I don't know what I could do without it, without this having happened. So that was good. And I called the psychiatrist straight away and got an appointment. And, you know, they just increased the medication and just monitored me on a weekly basis and called me throughout the day, you know, a few times a week, and it settled down. So I just went from 100 to 200, and that was enough to calm me down. I wasn't having the 350 that was just zombifying me. And the 200 was kind of like a happy medium at that point. It brought me down, and, you know, eating is still a bit of a problem, but now that I've gotten rid of the weed, you know, I was dealing, that's what was happening. I was quitting that. I went down a lot. My consumption went from like that to that minuscule amount, and it made me have a bunch of insomnia, and my appetite just went. And so, you know, I was still finding it very difficult to eat, and I'd lost all that weight, and I was having trouble sleeping. And so that was building up, and then the stresses building up until I was at the point where I was. So, you know, now in the last month, I've been starting to get better. Like, even this month, I've been having difficulty sleeping. Like, it'd be... Alright, again, let me just say, I switched from the quick release Seroquel down to the slow release very recently, and it's sort of kept me more level throughout the day, and it's been much better for me than the quick release, because what I was doing was having the 200 at night time, and you know, that would basically have me like, I'd have it at about 10 p.m. and then by say 12, 1 o'clock, I'd be like physically unable to stay awake. I'd be like drifting off. And if I fall asleep, I'm asleep. You can't wake me up. So if I fall asleep on the couch, I stay there until like 12 in the afternoon until I wake up. So it was really knocking me. So, you know, I'd reduced it that much. I'd stopped having the morning dose. So I wasn't having any during the day because I was like, it's just zombifying me. I can just use it to sleep. And it was really helpful for that. And then switching over to the slow release, it's like, you know, it doesn't make me fall asleep super quick. I'm able to, like, it's been more difficult to get to sleep. And I think that's also due to quitting the other stuff, you know, because that causes insomnia. But yeah, after that point where I started coming down, when I've switched to the slow release, it's been very good. It's worked with me much better. I've still been able to get to sleep. But I mean, like the start of this month was pretty difficult. I was just laying there like, open eyes, it's been an hour, close, open, it's been another hour. Or it's been like 5 minutes. Some nights it'd just be like, I look at the clock, it feels like it's been 5 hours and it's been 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, this is driving me insane. But you know, I'm getting to a point now where my sleeping is getting better. I'm able to sleep. My appetite is coming back. And, you know, I've had like I'm still not eating much, but I'm trying to improve that. I've been trying to have like a smoothie in the morning and just trying to eat as much as I can throughout the day, and it's been getting so much better. My appetite has increased majorly. Hello, Lulu. I didn't see you. Okay. Hello. Okay. She's so cute. What was I saying? Okay, so yeah, the slow release Cerecal, at first, I felt like I was getting a little bit more unstable because I'm having the same amount as I was having with the quick release. So, you know, it's more like spaced out throughout the day. And it's definitely kept me much more stable. Everything is improving. And I'm starting to feel much more capable and things are getting better. So, I guess that's all I can really say right now. Like, how long is this video? Jesus. An hour? I've been sitting here for an hour? I don't expect any of you to freaking watch all of that. Wow. I'm going to put a disclaimer at the start of this video, okay? But yeah, all I can say is it's getting better. And I'm starting to get more control in my life. I'm looking forward to, you know, starting to look into studying. And I mean, not so much looking forward to it. I'm trying to muster up the motivation to get there. But I am getting there. And that's the main thing. So, okay. I'm just going to end this right now. So, Goodbye. If you got to the end of this video, I've got no idea how. How could you listen to me talking for that long? Either way. Alright, actually, let's have like a keyword. Write. What can you write? Tacos. If you're gonna comment, just comment like tacos and follow up with whatever else you want to say. And then I'll know that you've watched the whole video and I'll know that you're insane. Like, as insane as me. Because how could you watch it all? Oh my god. Alright, ending now. Bye guys. I'm hoping to, okay, just quickly, I'm hoping to get back on YouTube. I mean, I've said that so many times, and I hope you can be patient with me and realize that it is a bit of a process for me, and it's very difficult to get up the motivation to do YouTube videos. I said that I was going to be going on a hiatus for a month to indefinitely, and that is still the case, because as much as I love doing this, as much as I love putting content out there for you, it's not a priority at this point. Once I have these other things in place, these priorities, then I can think more about doing these videos, because I love doing them. And I'm really disappointed that I'm unable to. But I just hope you can be patient with me. Alright, this is getting really long-winded, so I'm ending it right now. Goodbye. Hope you've had a great Christmas and everything, and mwah. Bye.